Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to TRS Live, the podcast.
Good morning.
Justin's here. What up?
Good morning, y'all. Thanks for joining.
Andy is here as well. Today's kind of a special one, right, Justin? I think this is going to be a good podcast today.
Oh, absolutely. Gary's an amazing fisherman and very interesting individual. So we're just looking to pick his brain a little bit today and see what he's prepping and what the next lake looks like. So
yeah, so we're taking a break from spring walleye talk. So if you haven't seen the last couple podcasts, you and Mike did a phenomenal job talking all things spring walleye. And we also had this gentleman, Gary Atkins, who did a nice little commercial for us talking about walleye baits and blade baits and things like that. And the reason we're having Gary on today is because we're a week away, or I'm sorry, not a week away. We're like 2 weeks out from the last event that he fished, and we're like 2 weeks out before the next event. So we're kind of in that perfect period to get Gary on here and talk about how the last event went. I think we're going to have some interesting talk about that. And then what we can look forward to seeing with the next event. So, Android, if he's ready, let's just roll Gary in here.
There he is.
How's it going, guys?
Good morning, Gary.
Well, we don't feel bad not taking you away from the river. I know you probably would be doing some walleye fishing this morning, but after that rain last night, I'm sure she's a little muddy. So,
yeah, I'm sure it is. I like walleye fishing when I'm not bass fishing, that's for sure.
So we do appreciate you making time today, Gary, from your busy work schedule and fishing schedule and everything like that. So the main thing for today, let's talk about the MPFL. This is your second year fishing that series, correct?
That is correct.
And so just so anybody who maybe doesn't follow Gary, how did things go for Gary last year and during the MPFL schedule?
Well, actually, I had an amazing year. For my first year, it went really well. I finished the season Angler of the Year, which was my goal going into the year, but it really was unexpected. But as the year went on, my confidence was building, and I was finishing strong in every tournament, and I was able to close it off at the end of the year.
Well, and you also won an event. Which event was that?
I won the Saginaw event over in Saginaw, Michigan.
What? Oh, I can't remember. Help me out, Gary. Where into the season was that? That was kind of like middle of the road, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was event number 4.
And how did the first 3 events go before you got that dub on Saginaw?
Well, we started the season on Lake Cumberland. I finished 15th there, which was a crazy tournament. We had a lot of rain throughout the practice, which finally led to actually canceling the first 2 days of the event. And then we had a one-day shootout for $50,000. What happened there is we had gotten so much rain that the lake actually came up 13 feet. And we had everything floating down the river. It actually became very dangerous. There was LP tanks, trees, docks, refrigerators, you name it, it was floating down that lake. So the MPFL made a great decision by canceling the first 2 days just for safety reasons. And then the water had gotten really, really dirty. I was on a great smallmouth bite, which during the tournament did not pan out for me. And then I ended up catching. Sorry about
get out of here.
I ended up catching some largemouth that I had. I found a little place in practice. I caught one largemouth, and I ended up catching 3, which was good for 15th place. Actually, in that tournament, it was like 75 guys didn't catch a fish.
Wow. I remember seeing the footage.
That's a tough bite.
Yeah, the footage from that one, and when I wasn't at that event, but I remember seeing the footage here. It was crazy. Like Gary was saying, the crap that was in that water. Gary, can you explain why all that stuff ends up in the water from those heavy rains?
Well, it's a very mountain area. I think a lot of the people that have been living there for years, they throw a lot of their trash down in these ravines behind their houses and stuff like that. And when they get all these torrential rains, it washes everything to the river. And I think that was a big part of it, because there was so much trash, it was unbelievable. If I was the DNR in that state, I'd be very upset. Because
it's like
it just totally destroyed the lake.
Mother Nature cleansing herself, and it ends up somewhere. Hopefully, somewhere they can clean it up a little easier. So,
right,
might be a little win sunshine in the dark spot of dirtiness.
Well, and then I think I was talking to Fat Cat during that event or whatever, and you guys target some of that structure that it's man-made, but not man-made structure after a while. Like those almost are like mats here in June and July in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah, catching them around the LP tank. That's a unique one, huh?
Flipping refrigerators and LP tanks.
That's awesome.
So that's the first event. Then we kind of roll into the second event, and how'd that one go for you again?
That was Lake Hartwell. It was a good event for me again. It was a lake I had a lot of history with. With my job, I get to travel over the country, and I had spent a lot of time in Anderson, South Carolina. So fishing Hartwell was something I did a lot when I was there. But when I got there, I noticed, there was about 2 years in between when I worked there in the tournament, and things had changed a lot over that time. Water depth was different. It was kind of a different time of year. I thought I had a good idea what I was going to do when I got there, but quickly realized things had changed, and I had to throw everything out that I knew, and I adapted, and I focused on a shad spawn. The fish were spawning. They were kind of on the tail end of the spawn, but I focused on the shad spawn. I ran points, real shallow. Water was real clear. I could see the fish, and I was seeing 25-pound bags, but there's a lot of pressure on Hartwell, and the fish were really finicky, and they were really hard to get the bite. You could get a good bite right away in the morning, but once that sun got up in that clear water, boy, it was hard. They would follow the bait to the boat, but they would not commit to it. But I had a good finish. I finished 21st in that event, which was really a good event for me.
Yep. And then, okay, so, I mean, we got some good points rolling in, AOI points, right? Consistent finishes. We're rolling into event 3. I mean, that was which event again? Event 3?
Watts Bar.
And how'd you finish in that one?
I'll tell you what, I had a real tough practice with that one. I ran up and down Watts Bar trying to put a pattern together, and just never really felt like I got on anything solid. But I had one island and one offshore ledge that I had found a few fish in practice, cranking and stroking a jig. And I ran them 2 spots for 3 days, and I finished 24th in that event.
Nice. So, I mean, the confidence rolling into the year, I mean, let's just call it the way it is. That Saginaw event was your bread and butter event. So you got some good confidence rolling into there, especially for your first year.
Right. I knew if I could stay competitive in the first 3 events, which I call the Southern Swing, I knew coming north, because I knew the event 4, event 5 were on fisheries that, one, they're smallmouth fisheries, and that's what I love to do. I knew if I could stay competitive in the first 3, going into the next 2, I would have a great chance at Angler of the Year going down to Florida in that last event.
Yep. So, I mean, what now? I'm trying to remember again. I wasn't as much a part of those events last year, but yeah, that was like that Saginaw event was kind of did that end up being more of a shootout on the last day for you, or did you have that one solidified?
No, it was, after the first day I was in second place, but I was only like 5 ounces, behind the leader. The second day I came back and I had a really good bag of fish, and I actually took the lead the second day, but I was only leading by a few ounces in the second day. In fact, I think might only been 3 ounces. I mean, it was tight. The smallmouth fishery was not what I was expecting. It was a post-spawn bite, and I mean, they had just got off the spawn. And if anybody knows anything about Great Lakes smallies, when they get down with that spawn, there's a couple week window there where fishing gets really tough, and then once they start getting into their summer patterns, things pick back up. But I actually struggled that last day. I caught a lot of fish, but the size wasn't there. I had lost 2 big fish that last day. In the last hour and a half, I lost a 3.5 at the boat, and I lost one that was over 5. And truly, after I lost that last fish, I thought I probably was going to let it slip away, because 3/4 of the field was focusing on largemouth, and there was some big bags of largemouth coming out of the Saginaw River and some of the surrounding marshes around the mouth of the Saginaw River. And I thought for sure that losing that big one that last day was probably going to give it away, and I was so disappointed in myself. But after getting to the weigh-in and you start listening to the doc talk, and it sounds like everybody struggled that last day, and I ended up actually winning the tournament by 4 ounces, which is not a lot of weight, but I'll tell you what, 1 ounce
That'll
is
keep
as good
you
as
on
a
the
pound.
edge. That's a definite nail biter, but it's a W. You'll take it.
Yeah, I weighed in just like I think it was 16.7 that last day, and I needed 16.4 to take the lead.
What was the overall weight for that event? Was that plus 50 pounds?
No, actually it wasn't. I had 19 the first day, almost 16 the second day, and a little over 16 the last day.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
it was under 50 pounds. I think I was 48 something.
Okay. So then, like, just kind of summarize the last two events and what I kind of want to get to it before we jump into 2023, right? We're one event into 2023. I just kind of want to catch people up on how well your first year went and how we're looking into this year so far. But like, that was the fourth event, the fifth event, right? I mean, can you talk about that one?
Sure. So that was Sandusky Bay on Lake Erie, which is a fishery that I did have some experience with. It had been a few years, but again, it's late summer smallmouth fishing on the Great Lakes, and that's something I'm very good at.
Yep.
If I've got one strong point in my fishing, it's definitely catching smallies deep on the Great Lakes. So I went there for pre-practice, and I ran some stuff that I had a history with, and I found 3 or 4 areas that really had some big fish on them. I was really excited going into that event. But when we got there for the 3-day practice, we had one good day where we could actually get out on Erie and actually run around and fish. The other 2 days we had 6 and 7 foot waves, and you could get out there, but I'll tell you what, you weren't going anywhere fast and you're beating up your equipment. So I didn't run around as much as I would have liked, but I was able to hit a couple spots the first day that I checked in that pre-practice, and they still had fish. So I was pretty pleased with it. The first day of the event, I ran all the way over to Canada Water, which is an area that I like to fish. And I get there and I drop my trolling motor, and I've got no power to my graphs in the front, and my live wells aren't working. And I spent well over 2 hours trying to figure that out. Come to find out, I had one of my nuts on my main power switch back by my batteries had rattled loose, probably from all the rough boat rides in practice and that morning. And it took me forever to figure it out, but finally I got everything working. So I really only fished about 2.5 hours that first day, and I weighed in 19 pounds, which put me in 17th place after the first day. So, I was able to hang in there, which I was happy with, because I really thought that with the way the fish were biting in practice, I really thought I was going to see some huge bags. And there was one huge bag. Scott Seller, who ended up winning that event, had over 26 pounds.
How far of a run were you making during that event every day?
About 35 miles.
So you think about that. I mean, that's why I just drooled
Go
on
easy.
myself. Did you see that?
You want me to get you a tissue?
Yeah, I'll be so excited. I'm feeding over here. But like, you think about that. He said he only had 2.5 hours, and you're like, well, you should have a little more time. But no, when you're making a 35-mile run,
we're running
you
at
gotta
3 and 4 footers.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big, big deal. So for you to still put it all together with only 2.5 hours of fishing on day one, I mean, hats off to you, buddy. Nice job.
So then after day one, I was a little over 6 pounds back. Day two, I run out there and I catch them good the second day. I mean, I almost had 23 pounds, and the leader had struggled a little bit. I think he had 21, so I gained a couple pounds. And I went from 17th all the way to second place. So that was huge on day two. Day three, I run out there again, and it was on fire. I mean, there was so many fish. It was unbelievable. And I weighed almost 24 pounds the third day, and he weighed 19. So I was, like I said, I was back over 6 pounds after day one. I came within 1.5 pounds of winning that tournament.
Come back, kid. Here we go.
And as we progress, you're going to find out about, Gary being a comeback kid. I mean, this is, as we get into the 2023 event, you're going to find out where that even more. But so the last event, right, remind me, was in Florida. I was down there for that event, and kind of tell everybody how that event ended for you.
So after Sandusky, I took the lead in the AOI. Timmy Reams, who's an outstanding angler in the MPFL, he was leading the two events before that, but I was slowly gaining on him. After that event, I took the lead and I went down there with a 11-point lead, which is in AOY, it's not a lot. I mean, so I went down to Florida and it meant so much to me. I went down there for a pre-practice. The fishing was phenomenal. The water was high. There was a lot of current. The fish were just really chewing. I left my boat down there. I went to work for a couple of weeks and I came back for the 3-day pre-practice. Well, and in that time frame, the hurricane had came. When we got back, the water was not running like it was. So I ran everything where I was catching them in that pre-practice. And I had one area that still had fish. And there was a lot of them there. But unfortunately, there was 3 or 4 other guys in the team or in the circuit that had found them same fish. So day 1 of that event, I shared them fish with 5 or 6 boats, I would say. And after day 1, I was in 24th place. And Timmy was right there. I mean, he didn't fall back too much. I think I might have gained a few spots on him. Day 2, I came back and I was in 12th. And Timmy struggled the second day, so I gained some more on him. And then that last day, I had a real rough day. At noon, I had 3 fish, I think it was, for about 6 pounds. And at the end of the day, I had just under 11 pounds. But everybody struggled that day except for a couple leaders. And I finished 24th in that tournament, and I won the Angler of the Year.
Yeah, it was something. I was there. That's when I was first being groomed to run camera for like this year.
Okay.
And to see Gary come across the stage, and that was a pretty heartfelt moment. And we were proud as the real shot to have Gary on our side and in winning that AOI championship plus a dub on Sandusky. That was a good year for him, my man.
Yeah, it was probably the highlight of my fishing career. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've won some Angler of the Years and I've won some big tournaments, but that Angler of the Year with that quality of anglers on that stage, it was definitely the highlight of my career. And I'm so proud of what I've done that year, and now to try to back it up this year, it's going to be tough, but I'll tell you what, I really feel I'm up to the challenge.
Right. So before we get into 2023 talk, Justin, you have a hat you want to announce a giveaway you want to do here with Gary being included in that?
Yeah, absolutely. What the goal is to have Gary sign. This is a TRS logo. It's a Sims brand hat. So we're gonna.
I think it's the hat he's got on right now.
Actually, you know what? It is that hat.
Yeah,
it's the same hat that Gary has on his head. We can hold it up here, but obviously you can see it on his head. Yeah, if you'd be so kind, Gary, next time you're in the shop picking up some wonderful tackle, if you could throw a signature on there, and we're gonna do this as a giveaway today. So I have no idea how many are on the stream today. I can't see any of that, but maybe we'll get some information from Andy here, and we're gonna randomly select one of you awesome viewers, and we're gonna get you a Gary Atkins signed Real Shot logoed hat.
So Andy just said there's 10 people on right now, and it's a little early. People will warm up here and get fired up. Do you have a goal you want to set, like 2025?
No, I think we're just gonna see participation. I think we're gonna pick a number, and we'll go back. Maybe we can maybe look at timestamps on when people joined today.
Okay.
If you're like the 12th or 15th one to join, we'll make a decision at the end.
So you and Will will figure out how you're going to do a giveaway, but you're definitely giving a hat away.
If you're on the stream today, you have definite opportunity for a signed Gary Atkins hat.
Well, and don't forget, we can monitor comments. So the first comment coming in for you, Gary, is from Daryl Kubley. He's on Fix TV. Thanks, Daryl. And good morning, everybody that's on all the platforms. And Daryl wants to know, Gary, are you fishing any local tournaments this year so far?
I'm going to be fishing some of the Wiscos. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do them all. But between my work schedule, the MPFL schedule, it's really hard for me to do the local stuff. I'm fortunate enough to have an employer that gives me the time off, that I need to fish the MPFL. So it's really hard for me to fish local stuff. But there's definitely some Wiscos I'll be fishing. Other than that, that's about it. I won't be fishing the Sturgeon Bay Open this year because of conflicts with the MPFL. So, yeah, I'll be fishing a few, Daryl.
I'm sure all the anglers in the Sturgeon Bay Open are probably happy to hear that you're not going to be there. So that's good.
I did see your name come across just a one-hitter that might be going on this weekend. Are you going to fish that tournament this weekend on Butamore if they have it?
I was planning on going there just to fish for fun anyways. So I jumped in. Yeah, me and Vince Hightree, good friend of mine. He's gonna jump in with me. We're gonna go out there and have some fun. I mean, I don't fish there a lot. I don't. What happens? What happens? It's just a small little fun club tournament thing. But
Yeah, that should be
pretty fun.
That's a fun little lake to fish. It's a good fishery.
Oh,
Absolutely.
definitely.
So
it's gonna be.
You'll catch them, Gary.
It's gonna be one of those spots where like it's gonna be if you like dealing with crowded fishing areas, that could definitely be one of those events this weekend.
Yeah, fish is pretty especially early in the year like this. Yeah.
Yeah, fish is pretty small this time of year, but
so then Andy. I pulled up Facebook, Andy, so I'll monitor the Facebook chat right now. And Brad Stemper says, "I'm so ready to catch some smallies, just waiting for the ice to melt." You kind of feeling the same way? I mean, you get to fish outside of the state, but it's nice to fish back here in Wisconsin as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, living in Green Bay not my entire life, but for the last 30 years, I've spent so much time on the bay, Winnebago, all these great smallmouth fisheries in this area. And yeah, when that ice first goes out, I biting at the bit to get the boat in, catch some of them big Great Lakes smallies.
Yep. Daryl also said on Getting a Fix TV, he says, great. He's excited that you're fishing. He loves fishing against you. So Daryl's a heck of an angler as well. So that's fun stuff.
There's a lot of great anglers in Wisconsin. I mean, you're seeing a lot of it, especially like in the elites. There's so many great Wisconsin anglers now in the MPFL with myself and a few others. And in the FLW, some of the Toyota series, there, Andrew Benke, there's a lot of great anglers that come out of Wisconsin.
And he said, Andrew, I mean, we're lucky to have some of those guys on the Real Shots team. So
absolutely, it's kind of a lot of fishing culture in this state. You know what I mean? That's
and another thing about Wisconsin, we have such adverse bodies of water that I think that's a big part of why Wisconsin anglers are so competitive out on the professional trails. I mean, we have the great smallmouth fisheries. We've got great largemouth fisheries. We've got the Mississippi River in our backyard. I mean, we see it all as anglers, growing up and just fishing locally, that when you step outside of the local stuff and get on that professional and that bigger stage, we're ready for it. We really are, because we've seen it all.
Well, the other thing too is we know how to fish through weather. I mean, if you look at the crap weather we've been having so far this, I don't even want to say spring, even though it kind of is spring.
Well, every other day it's spring and every other day it's winter, spring. And
right.
Yeah, we haven't had a summer spring yet, but
when we went down to Alabama, I was really anticipating some really nice weather, and that weather really wasn't that nice, especially that last day. And I know all them Southern guys were hating it, but I'm like, this ain't so bad, guys.
Right? You're like, this is a really great spring day in Wisconsin.
So you brought it up, Gary. Let's get right into 2023 then. I know Justin's got a bunch of notes here and some questions for you. So the first stop of the year was in Alabama on Pickwick Lake. What's your history going into that event?
I had fished an FLW championship years and years ago there. It was, I think, in 2006, and I was pretty competitive in that one, but I had not been back there in almost 16 years. I did go down for a pre-practice for 2 days in between my job. I got down there for a couple of days, and I'll tell you, I found a special spot up on Wilson Lake that was, had I been able to fish it during the tournament, I think Brandon probably would have had a run for his money, but obviously we know what happened up there the first day. I fished it and I got caught by the locks, and I did not make it back that first day and zeroed. And I'll tell you what, there's no worse feeling than sitting at a locks for 3 hours, praying to get through it and not get through and have to throw back over 20 pounds of fish.
Oh, can you, I don't want to bring up the sore subject, but can you elaborate a little bit more on what happened? I mean, why you got stuck there?
Well, in the morning, we got to the locks, the door was open. There was 11 of us in there. We all got in, door shut, and we were talking to the lock master about what time we needed to be back to make sure that we all got back for the weigh-in. The time was set for between 1:15 and 2 o'clock. Be back. The door will be open. Barge traffic is minimal today. We'll get you back through. I was the first one back at 12:30. I had probably between 20, 21 pounds. I felt I had enough for the day. I wanted to make sure I got back with my fish. I had another spot down on Pickwick that I felt I could upgrade if I needed to. So I got back early, and when I got back, nobody else was there. I waited around 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, and I called the lockmaster and I said, "Hey, are we still on schedule to get the door open between 1:15 and 2?" And he says, "Well, I'll tell you, TVA showed up and they're going to do some on-schedule maintenance today. They said they need an hour, hour and a half." So now it's like 1 o'clock, and I'm thinking an hour, hour and a half. Okay, I'm still good. I don't got to be back till 3:15. I'm going to be able to get through this lock. So I just went and poked around a couple points that were real close. I didn't want to go too far because I didn't. With that door opened, I knew I needed to be in it. So I poked around for a half hour or so, and then some of the other fishermen started filtering back, and and I went over and I started talking to them, and they all said they called and they said by 2. He said 2 o'clock we'll be able to get through. Well, 2 o'clock came. The door never opened. 2:30 went by. We called again. He said, "Yeah, they're almost done." 3 o'clock came by, and by that time I knew I was in trouble because I had to be back by 3:15. And for the people that don't know about the Wilson Dam locks, the water rises over 100 feet, and it takes about 25 minutes to fill it up and for the doors to open. So I knew I was already in trouble. By 4 o'clock, the door still hadn't opened. So everybody started calling to get their trailers brought up to Wilson Lake. I called my wife and daughter, which came to the event. They came and got me. My wife stayed with my boat. Me and my daughter went and got my truck and trailer, and I came back. And once I came back, that's when I did the video that I posted on Facebook of me releasing my fish. But there's no worse feeling in the world knowing that you got what it takes to stay competitive in a tournament and have to throw them back. And I thought I had all my T's crossed and my I's dotted with the lockmaster and getting back down. But unfortunately, there's always a risk when you go through a locks. And unfortunately, it bit 11 of us in the butt that day.
What, so you figured you had about 20 pounds. Explain some of the fish that unfortunately you had to let go. Because you had a dandy in that bag.
Oh, I saw that bag.
I had a 7.2 largemouth in there. I also had a 4-pound smallmouth, a 4-pound plus largemouth, a 3.5 pounder, and a 2 3/4 largemouth. And I only fished for 3 hours up there that first day, and I got out of there because I wanted to get back, make sure I got back. And I won big bass at that tournament with 6'9", but actually I had the 2 biggest bass of that tournament.
Yeah. And one of them never walked across the stage. I mean, that 7-pounder, that was a good-looking fish, and unfortunately, it didn't even get to see the stage. That's a real bummer. So that all happens. We had the good fortune to see you right after that event, after everything ended, and I mean, for a guy that could have just been absolutely furious, you were still in pretty good spirits, Gary.
I got nobody to blame but myself. So, dwelling on it wasn't going to work. I knew if I was going to get back in the Angler of the Year run because, it could have ended right. My Angler of the Year for this year could have ended right there at that moment. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I knew I had a little something down on Pickwick. I didn't know what I had, but I knew I could catch a limit there. So the second day, I chose not to go back through the locks, which I believe nobody got through it anyways, because the barge traffic had backed up for it being closed, and they weren't letting anybody through. So that might have been a blessing in disguise. So I went to my spot the second morning, and I put a limit in the boat pretty quick, but it was like a 12-pound limit. And as the day went on, I kind of fine-tuned this spot. I kind of found the sweet spot. And by the end of the day, I had almost 21 pounds that second day on that second spot down on Pickwick, which turns out to be the biggest bag of the tournament that day. And I caught the biggest bass of the tournament that day. So I went from last place all the way to 21st.
Yep.
So I'm like, wow, I still have a chance.
I'll never forget when Gary came across the stage, right? We were all watching. I think I was running fish at the time. And Gary, what were like your final words before like Al and Kyle kind of let you go off the stage? You kind of made a bold statement, I thought.
I said, I know some guys that got really lucky that I got caught in that locks. That's all I'm going to say, I said. And I wish
you would have the truth or the
I wish you would have grabbed
do you
the
gotta
mic
do?
and just dropped that
Yep.
sucker right on
Poof.
the stage and walked off. I'm going to catch us up here before we get into days 2 and 3 here. So Brad Stemper says that's horrible luck. On Daryl on Fix TV says locks will break your heart. And then Kyle Carpenter is actually joining us. He had some surgery yesterday. Everybody, just so you know, he's in good spirits. Everything pulled through.
Good morning, Kyle.
But he says, "What's up?" And it's a pumpkin with a head after it. So he calls you Pumpkinhead. And then that's Kyle for
Such
you.
a sweetheart, isn't he?
And then he also says, and this is kind of an inside joke, the bubble bass must have helped that luck too.
It did. So it's kind of a little inside joke. I put on my NPFL profile that I like bubble bass just for kind of a little joke thing. Well, it's starting to went a little further than I thought it would. So now I get a lot of heat. And I do like bubble bass after a tournament. I like soaking in that hot water. I'm getting old, so a long day of fishing, I get sore shoulders, sore elbows, and just soaking in that hot water sometimes helps me. So I put that on my NPFL profile, and Kyle's been running with it.
Leave it up to Kyle. He's
Hey, guy's got to take care of himself, right? I mean, that's a long day, and that's kind of what I was gonna lead into after we get through the next lake setup. Is just kind of your pre and post. Like, I mean, you guys fish hard, you get beat up. Like, what do you do to wind down? And obviously, bubble bass are it. So the question's been answered. That's fantastic.
So good morning, Joe Sokola's on. Chip Goy says no need for oh, okay, never mind. He's talking trash to Kyle in the chat. I thought he was talking to you, Gary. Nope. So we'll leave that one kind of go along the chat. All right, so we covered day 2. Now we're into day 3. And the one thing that you mentioned that I can help elaborate on too is like every day after day 1, I think it was either Brad or Sean was kind of warning the field. You go through the locks, you may get through the locks, but at this stage with what was going on, they did not guarantee anybody back. Like going into this event, Gary, if you go through a lock, you go through at your own risk, right? I mean, there's things that could happen, like Gary's saying, there's a lot of barge traffic starting to pick up, plus with the traffic being backed up from the Wednesday, catastrophe or whatever. Yep. Every morning before launch, they said, like you said, day 2, they're like, don't even try it, not happening. Day 3, they also kind of said it will potentially be open, but they're not guaranteeing you're going to get your butts back through here for weigh-in.
Yeah, but that played a big part why I didn't go any of the days after I got locked out. For one, I knew if I got locked out one more time, my Angler of the Year points would have been terrible. So I just got it out of my head. And then after having such a great day, that second day, there was no need. Actually, had I known that spot was as good as it was, I probably never would have went.
What was it about can you talk a little bit about that spot that you had that you said you had to fine tune? What was it that made it so good and allowed you to catch fish there?
There was a little rock point coming out by a creek that made a current seam. And just down from that current seam, there was a little rock pile with a little ditch behind it. And them fish were piling up in that little ditch, and it would reload like every 30 minutes to an hour. You'd catch a couple out of it, and then I know I'd go back and forth down that shoreline, and I'd move up a little bit closer to where that little rock point was, because there was a school of spotted bass there too, which were some nice fish, but they weren't in that 4-pound range, which I was catching off that little ditch. So I would just leave it alone, and I'd come back up on. Unfortunately, I had it to myself. Ron Johnson was close, but he was very courteous. He knew what I was doing, and he stayed away from it, and he was real courteous. So my hat's off to Ron Johnson for doing that. And every hour I'd pull back up on it, and I'd catch 2 more, 3 more off of it. Then they would stop biting, and then I would have to wait a while, and then it just kept on. Either they kept on reloading, or they caught onto the bait coming through there and getting their buddies getting pulled out of there, so they wouldn't eat it no more. But it was just a spot that just kept on reloading and reloading and reloading.
How on Pickwick Lake and that whole system, how important are those current seams?
Oh, so important. So if you're not familiar with Pickwick, they got the area called the tail race. I was not in the tail race. I was downriver from it, but there was still a lot of current where I was. That current, when the gates are open, runs about 9 miles an hour. You can put your trolling motor on spot lock, and you're still going to go backwards about 6 miles an hour. I mean, that's how strong it is. So anywhere you got a current seam, a rock pile, anything that them bass can hide behind, they not have to fight that current, they'll stack up there. And I just found one of them spots where they liked it. They liked to get behind it and get out of that current. And they were easy to pick off when they were there.
With the system setting up that way, how important is battery maintenance in an event like this?
Very important. If you were actually in the tail race by noon, your batteries were completely dead. So I was fortunate. That point that came out by that little creek created a little back eddy, and I sat in that back eddy, and I probably only used about 10% of my trolling motor all day.
Didn't have to do anything. It just kind of kept you suck in there, huh?
Yep. Actually, it was actually pulling me upriver.
Sure.
So I had it made. I mean, I had the best of both worlds. I was able to cast to the current seam, but yet my boat wasn't in it.
What okay, so as we're talking about this, were you able to utilize like power poles in this situation, or was it mostly just like spot lock then?
It was spot lock. It was too deep for power poles. I was sitting in probably 9 feet of water.
Okay.
Casting out to about 10, 11.
Can I ask, I know the event's over with now, but some guys are secret. Can I ask what kind of bait you were throwing?
I was throwing a true bass swim bait. Everything I caught on a true bass swim bait.
Very nice.
3/4 ounce head because of the current.
Okay. Good morning, Jim. He's on Facebook. Okay, so you found out that was a good spot there in Pickwick. How did that event end for you?
So that last day I went out and I had a limit, like within 15 minutes I had 16 pounds. I mean, it was crazy. They were really chewing that last morning, but I'd say about an hour into that, starting that morning. So I'd say about 8:30 they shut the gates on the dam, and the current completely changed, which moved my fish. After 8:30 in the morning, I caught one fish that I called the rest of the day, but I still weighed in 19 pounds.
And that finished you. What did you finish 13th in this event?
So I went from last to 21st to 13th.
With 2 days.
2 days.
That's pretty amazing.
With 2 days away,
Right.
is 13th so 13? Some people think that's not a lucky number. I mean, are you superstitious like that? Does that have any bearings on going into this next event?
I'm not real superstitious person, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to ride that momentum because obviously things are done right. Somebody was looking out for me that tournament because what I pulled off in them 2 days just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. And Andy actually brought up, I think the viewers at home now can kind of see the current AOY standings, and you are obviously with the first event. Right now, you're sitting in 13th place going into the next event, which we want to cover here in a little bit. But, okay, so all in all, like confidence level right now rolling into the next event, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, guys. I really am.
So we're headed to what, Wright Patman?
Yep, Texas.
Have you fished? Is this a lake that you've had some experience on, or?
I have never been the Wright Patman. I will not be able to pre-fish for that one because it's closed. It actually closed the weekend of the event in Pickwick. So when I show up there for pre-practice, that'll be the first time I'll be looking at it.
Wow. So how do you just a quick breakdown? How does Gary's never been on a piece of water? How does he quick break it down?
Well,
I'm guessing species, is there Texas, probably no smallmouth in that system, or is there?
There's no smallmouth there, but the MPFL was there in their first year. So I've got all that footage that I can go back and look at, see how the guys caught them. I know what the fish should be doing this time of year. The water levels and water temperature are going to dictate everything in the spring of the year. I'm sure it's going to be a shallow flipping chatterbait bite. I mean, there's no secrets there. I don't think it's going to be a tough tournament for guys to separate themselves, because I think everybody's going to be doing the same thing. It's going to be the guys that get them one or two bigger bites throughout the event that are going to pull away from the crowd. But everybody's going to be, it's going to fish small, in my opinion, because everybody will be doing the same thing. But if I got to fish largemouth, it's exactly the way I want to catch them. So
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at that lake map this morning before we started. That's interesting. I mean, that's windy river channel. That looks a little for a guy that has no experience on the lake, you got to trust your lake map because that looks a little dicey running.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wood in that, a lot of wood, a lot of brush, cypress trees in that lake and river. You're definitely gonna have to watch where you're going.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
we had a little meeting last night, and it sounds like the lake level is down. They're doing some maintenance on the dam this week, and actually for the last couple of weeks, and they've had the gates open to draw the water down so they could do maintenance. It sounds like they're going to close them this week, and they're expecting a bunch of rain. And fortunately, anything that rains north of there dumps into that lake. So hopefully, lake levels come up 2, 3, 4 feet. And police puts it close to where it was when they were there 2 years ago. That'll help because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in that lake that you can hit. It looks like.
This may be a dumb question, but I'm good at asking them. Are you going to see fish like in all stages of the spawn, or what do you think you're going to see for any spawning activity?
I think it'll be all phases. I think you'll have post-spawn fish spawning, and I think that you'll be seeing some pre-spawn females.
Okay. Which is hopefully going to make some good footage.
Oh yeah.
When we got bucks on beds and big females there, are you going to? Does that play into your style of fishing? Are you a bed fisherman if you have to be, or do you like to just leave them be and go find something different?
Well, I'm a decent bed fisherman. I mean, I have bed fish smallies in tournaments. I'm not a real great at bed fishing largemouth because they are a little tougher. But that water's so stained there, I don't know that you will be looking at them.
Okay. So we got a pretty good question coming from Jim Lopez here on the Facebook chat. He says, Gary, and this kind of goes back to the Pickwick talk. He says, Gary, when the current is moving the opposite direction of the wind, how are you trying to attack the smallmouth? And then can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Well, when the wind blows against the current, it obviously slows things down, at least at the surface. But what I've found over the years, typically once you get 1 or 2 feet below the surface, that current is still moving down low. I don't have to, a lot of it's about boat positioning at that point. I'm making sure that your boat is positioned so your bait is presented, because now you're going to have if it's windy on top, you're going to have a big bow in your line, which can make it trouble for setting the hook once you do get bit. So that's something you got to keep in mind. But positioning your boat so you can make that accurate cast and still present that bait to them fish to where they want to eat it is crucial at that point. But like I said, usually the current on the top might be a little slower, but when you're in like that little bit of deeper water, that current's still moving fast down below, and it usually doesn't position the fish any different.
Now, I've heard you say in the past that you're not a strong electronics fisherman. Is that still a true statement, or you feel like you've gotten a lot better?
I am getting better at it, but I'm still not the strongest at it. I mean, I've only had light scope for about 1.5 years, so I'm still learning every time I go out there. I mean, I'm getting better with deep smallies and deeper fish, but I'm not so great at it in that shallower water. It certainly didn't play a factor on Pickwick.
Okay, that was kind of what I was.
Probably not going to play much of a factor on Patman, whatever you guys like to nickname this one.
Fish are going to probably be in 3 feet of water or less.
Right.
So we're going to definitely catch up. Obviously, we're going to talk to you during the event, and then after that event. So we do appreciate you making time. When will you be leaving for that event?
Well, I kind of got a goofy schedule. I'm actually leaving this coming Wednesday, or actually Thursday. I am going to drive to South Carolina. I'm going to spend a couple days on Santee Cooper because it'll be going off limits during the Wright Patman tournament. So I'm going to spend a couple days there just to see what I can learn. I know the fish are going to be different, but I know what to look for that time of year. And to spend a couple days there. Then I've got to go to a project in Georgia for 4 days. And then I'm going to be leaving Thursday before the official practice from Dublin, Georgia to Texas. I'm going to fish the event, and then I got to drive back to Dublin for a 2-week project. and then I'm going to make it home for a little while, about a week, and then I got to go back to Sante Cooper. So I got a really busy month from now until middle of May.
Yeah, these events are kind of stacked up here. We do have a little break coming up in the month of June. Justin had to step away. Something about
I'm back.
he needs this guy is when you're busy as Justin. So
Well,
he wasn't just walking out, Gary. Like we feel like you might have shushed Justin out here, like you shushed that employee. Like get out of here. I'm
Right.
doing some sweet talking here.
I did nothing wrong. Come on.
I know, but so yeah, you can kind of see the upcoming schedule and things like that. So the other thing too is I kind of wanted to end with first of all, obviously all your sponsors, we want to make sure you give them a shout out, and then any turkey hunting plans if you have any time this spring.
I won't be turkey hunting this year. I'm just way too busy during the season. Just the way things. I love turkey hunting. I mean, it's something I grew up doing, and I got a property that's full of turkeys, but I just can't get to them.
Maybe we'll have to, you hate to have those turkeys
Yeah, I mean
multiply and start eating your
I'll tell
crop.
you
So
what, we
Matt
could
and I
probably
should,
work something out.
right.
But it'll have to be that week.
Matt's a
off that
turkey
I'm off
junkie.
in May or something.
Yeah, we'll
But I
communicate
got a lot
that.
of turkeys.
Well, perfect. And then let's do your sponsors some credit here. Let's give a big
All right.
shout out to them.
Well, my presenting sponsor this year is U.S. Trades. They're a great company. The Real Shot, Ken Sports, Power Pole, Mercury, Camus, PH Custom Lures. They're all great companies. I can't do this without them. Obviously, the Real Shot's been with me for 3 years now. You guys take care of me. I love everybody over there. You guys got a great sports shop, great staff. The Keller family are great people. So, like I said, I can't do this without my sponsors. It would be too much for me. So thank you to everybody. And thanks for having me today, guys. I really appreciate coming on and sharing my knowledge and sharing what I know. That's for sure.
In your socials, if people kind of want to follow along, you've really stepped up the game on your social media platforms. Where can people follow along with you?
Gary Atkins Fishing on Facebook and Instagram. I've got a website that you can go to and check me out at GaryAtkinsFishing.com. And yeah, hey, check me out. I've always got stuff on there. I'm trying to share what I know.
Well, appreciate it, Gary. Good luck in the next event. I'm sure I'll see you down there. But travel safe when you're on your way to the next stuff.
Hey, I'll see if I can't get you one of them Fat Bass on Atkins Diet T-shirts too.
Oh yeah, he's got some pretty sweet apparel he's coming out with too. So,
Looking forward.
all right, Gary, have a great Friday,
Thanks,
buddy.
Gary.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you guys.
Yep. Take care.
Well, it's always fun talking to that guy.
I know that guy's a hoot, man. He's super interesting, and he's an amazing fisherman. Clearly,
An amazing fisherman. And the thing that is still astonishing to me is how the hell do you keep your composure after something like that happens?
yeah. You have. I mean, you got to be hot,
Yeah.
hot, upset, all of the above. There's a lot of emotions coming through dumping a bag of fish that you worked really hard to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Especially for something that was out of his control. I mean, it's not like I know everything when a motor goes down and all that kind of stuff, but like that's just
It's kind of those. It's above and beyond that mechanical
yep.
error kind of thing. It's just a really random anomaly that unfortunately happened. But
Yep.
he was able to rally back and present a hell of a nice show for 2 days. So.
Hell yeah, he did a great job. So before we end this one, Justin, anything store-wise you would like to catch people up on?
Well, obviously it's spring and we're running a lot of sales on baits, rods, tackle. We got a huge assortment of trolling gear for your, big lake guys. To touch on Gary's stuff, our smallmouth and largemouth selection is amazing. Kyle Carpenter does a good job buying all that tackle. So if it's new, it's hot. If it's innovative, if it's a staple, if it's utility, we got it. I mean, it's an amazing selection. So, come on in and see us or visit us at www.therealshot.com or call the store at 920-750-6140.
Andy, these guys are learning so well,
Yeah,
aren't they?
skipping Matt's questions now. So let's pick a winner for the hat. Where are we at? Andy, I'm going to let you because I can't see the stream. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I'm kind of a old school dude, but
Well, Well, a lot of people were thinking we were done, so they were kind of
Did they?
they kind of dropped off. Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
we
why
did-
don't you and Will pick somebody later on and then
You
make
know
an
what?
announcement?
That's what we'll do. We'll go
That's
through the
what-
stream. I still have to get a signature from Gary. So
Yep. So yeah, we'll
if you participated today and you listened, you definitely have an opportunity for.
yeah. So so you guys can go through. So Daryl was on Fix, and then we had quite a few people on
Yep.
Facebook.
We'll reach out. We'll get if you're local, we'll let you know. You can come in and pick it up, and if you're not, we'll get it out in the mail to you. So.
Well, yeah, and we may not see Gary for about 2.5 months here.
Oh,
Because
Gary knows where the tackle's at. Gary will be in here.
So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for watching TRS Live, the podcast. We do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us with Gary Atkins, TRS Pro, NPFL, Angler of the Year, and hopefully he can pull off another couple W's this year and back-to-back champion. That would be our goal and his goal, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, and have a great weekend, everybody. Make sure you stop in the store for all your fishing and hunting needs, and we will see you next week, Friday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Appreciate you.